Hey everybody, it's Teton Rockefeller, Teton Valley Realty and Teton Valley Realty blog. Today I wanted to talk about an article I wrote a couple of weeks ago. This was the December year-end market report. It talked a little bit about current inventory levels. I went back and reread that article a couple of days ago to get some information for a client, and it didn't really make any sense. So I wanted to put this video together to kind of help you understand what I was trying to convey in that article and help you understand what the topic of the article was, which was current inventory levels here in Teton Valley. If you take a look at that on the Teton Realty blog website, it should be one of the top ones if it's recent under the Market Reports tab. Basically what I was talking about was what the current inventory levels are versus what they have been historically and why we have such a low inventory. The other reason it prompted me to write this article or to do this video blog was the phone and the fact that it's not ringing. Basically, I'm not very busy at the moment, and I think that's not necessarily because of the stock market tumble that we had last week and some of the volatility there, but more so because of what's happening with the inventory levels here in Teton Valley. Right now there are about 120 homes on the market. That sounds like a lot, but if you take the current price point from say 200,000 or even zero, because there isn't anything under 200,000, up to about 500 or even 400, and then you kind of take out some of those listings in Tetonia or way out north of Felt, you really come down to about 24 listings. Some of those are overpriced, some of those might be manufactured homes or something you're not looking for. It's really a limited market right now. So that being said, why don't we have any inventory, and why have we had inventory? Basically, there hasn't been any new construction for the last decade, really. You might argue that you're seeing a lot of construction. Most of that today that you're seeing are actually custom homes that people are building for themselves. Part of that reason is due to the fact that there isn't anything to buy. So construction costs, we know, or if you've read some of my other recent articles, are actually higher than current market inventory, which is limited, as I've mentioned. So if we go back over the last couple of years, we've seen a couple of hundred, 200-300 home sales in the price range that we're talking about. Where did those come from if the inventory is so low and the current construction world really isn't producing any spec homes? And the interesting thing that I found that I tried to convey in the blog or in the post was the vast number of sales that were actually resales from the era of 2008 to 2012. And not that I really want to bring up the inventory that occurred and the recession and all that, but it's an important element as to what's happened with our maturing market over the last couple of years. What I tried to convey in that post was about 40% of those sales that occurred in the last 2 years were actually resales from somebody who bought during the recession. Now, I'm not going back to 1995 or 1990 or 1980. I'm really talking about that period of time from 2008 to 12 and then the resales in the last 2 years. So in other words, I went back through every listing that's sold in the last 2 years and I looked at the history in the MLS here. And then I looked to see if it actually sold in that period of time from 28 to maybe 2014 to see if it was then resold in 2016 or 2017. And again, the vast number that I came up with was about 40% of the sales that occurred were resales. So if you take out those resales, and we have to assume that those aren't going to last forever. That was a great opportunity for a lot of first-time home buyers, and a lot of those flipped into another home or bought something somewhere else or sold the home and took the profit and went on vacation. Who knows? It was a great opportunity. We don't expect we'll ever see that again, but those are only a limited number of sales. Now that most of those have resold or changed hands, we can only assume that that inventory is probably locked in. The other thing that we're seeing are interest rates that are rising. So if we look back in what's occurred and we can say, okay, people that had a great deal, they flipped into something else, interest rates are just now beginning to climb. I think people are settled into where they need to be, want to be, or have to be based on their budget because we know what the prices are today, or because of the rising inventory or interest rates, not inventory. So people are settled in. They're not relisting or reselling like what they did in 2008 to 2012, those purchases, because there was some profit there for them. So the inventory that's coming on the market is people that have to move out of the area, or somebody that is selling for another reason unrelated to the fact that there's some profit involved. So what we're seeing today is really a result of those flips, and not really anything to do with construction because the construction market is so slow. It's booming, and I shouldn't put it in those words, but the spec home inventory is very limited at the moment. So if you reread that article and you take a look at, why are we seeing such a limited supply of inventory, it might make some sense to you to watch the video, get a better understanding of what I was trying to convey there. The other thing to keep in mind, if you are a seller at the current time, it might be a good time to consider selling. I think prices are slightly artificially high at the moment based on the lack of supply. Now that might not be the case in a couple of years when we see this construction market start to pick up, because we know construction costs are higher than current inventory, meaning the cost of constructing a home is higher than what we're seeing for homes that are currently available, which is part of the reason we're not seeing any new spec homes. The home prices have to raise in order to meet what we can build homes for. But that being said, on the other hand, when we start to see that construction, if you have a pre-existing home or an older home that you'd like to sell, in a couple of years you're probably going to be competing with new home construction. So a couple of things to keep in mind if you're a seller, and a couple of things to understand if you're a buyer. Thanks for watching.